So we just want to cover some little bits about nutrition initially. So if you just flip over onto that page, the one after where we were just doing some writing earlier, and all these things should hopefully look familiar. But we just want to talk about a few things and just maybe re-jog some of your memories, or just the things that we'd like you to focus on that just keep things simple, okay? So we're going to go through like different strategies, ways of thinking about food, ways of sort of having a little bit of what you like, and then some things that we see as like probably the most important thing to focus on, and then just sort of eating out. And then we'll finish up with some questions around foods, because the other things are a little bit quicker than that. And I know there's always quite a lot of questions about this. So 1 of 3 is pretty much the minimum of what we would suggest at the moment for all of you, just to have a little bit more structure with your food. But if you can probably do 2 of 3 or all 3, then great. So like some form of like meal swaps. The meal swaps, that you've all would have seen it by now, hopefully. But the good thing is with it, it's just simple. And that's the whole point of it. Like you've got, well, simple. I mean, how simple was it for you, Aaron, to start with?
I hated it.
Couldn't get your head around it.
It's hard when you're used to eating a certain amount.
Yeah.
And then it's just, we'll just swap it and have less of it.
Well, that's what happens when you want to cut me, unfortunately. You've got to sometimes get used to being a bit hungry, but there we go. So yeah, I mean, like, the whole point of that is just to give you portion control, right? It's just give you an idea of portion sizes and just make it a little bit more simple. Me and Pablo always said this, like, you know, we've got loads of recipes we can give you. You can find loads of recipes online. They work well, but sometimes it's just a bit of a time constraint. So do use things like that. But even if you make a recipe, for example, it's always going to have some element of like protein in it, some carb. So you can almost use the ideas behind the meal swaps layout and then just add your own things to it. Sauces, seasoning, things like that, okay?
What's with the nutrition? Has any one of you tried any of the recipes on the app? Have you? Are you going to try some next year? Next week? Have you anyone tried them yet? No. The recipes on on the app.
Yeah, there's a few on there, isn't
there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well.
But yeah, always just try to refer back to that, because it always helps even when you're eating out as well, which we'll talk about in a minute. But like, if you can start to think about, okay, like looking for a menu and, you know, protein elements to a dish, carb, things like that, it's just sometimes an easy way of looking at the food. You don't always have to know the calories in it, but at least the intention was there. And it, you know, is more likely going to sort of fit with what you're trying to achieve. The next one then is obviously calorie tracking. I mean, if you do a bit of meal swaps and calorie tracking, it's probably not a bad option, because it would just help build up even more awareness. But technically, if you calorie tracked, you wouldn't need to do any meal swaps at all if you didn't want to. The only problem is sometimes with the calorie tracking is like you just go off on your own tangents with it and then find it then hard to actually maybe stick to the calories if you're not making great food choices, right? So obviously if you're trying to lose weight, if all of you are hitting your calorie target, you will lose weight. But if you are just making random food choices, then you'll probably find it very hard to stick to the calorie target. So that's where the meal swaps can help you make better choices and make it easier to stick to the calorie target. So doing both of them together can work really well. And to be honest, when I'm going back into like a deficit or something, the first thing I'll go back to sometimes is just calorie tracking for a little while. And even if I'm not in a deficit sometimes, I'll still calorie track just every now and again to re-jog my memory of like what portion sizes are. Because it's just a good way of like getting more familiar again, because it's sometimes shocking what's inside of certain foods. Like I made a bowl of granola the other day and I was just like, what? That's all you get for 500 calories. Like mental. So sometimes it's good just to rejig your memory of certain things every now and again, even if it's weight loss or weight maintenance or anything. And then the last thing is just like meal prep. You can obviously use this as just alongside of the meal swaps and the calorie tracking, but it's sometimes just keeping it simple. So like, you know, if you're having some meat, you could cook it times 2 or 3 and split it over 3 dishes, slightly change up the carb or the veg, add a bit of variety that way. But then it also just means when you're coming home late from work, you can't be asked to cook. It's something there, it's good to go. And like, don't worry about getting bored of something until you get bored of it. Like most people think, oh, you know what, if I eat the same thing every day, I'm going to get bored. But I'm like, you haven't got bored yet.
Get bored.
So yeah, I mean,
she had the same thing every day.
yeah, I know. But it's like, also, I'm guessing if it's not broken, don't fix it. And if you enjoy it, don't overthink it. Like I really like oats in the morning at the moment. I've probably eaten the last 100 days in a row. I might wake up one morning and be like, screw oats, and I'll make something else. But until that happens, I'll just eat them because I like them and I just know what's inside of it and it makes life easy and I feel good from eating it. So that's what I'd say sometimes, like rinse and repeat, especially if you're trying to achieve a calorie deficit, because it will just make life substantially easier and there's way less decision fatigue with food, which is always a good option, okay?
Do you guys do like any meal prep organize, like not even like physically making it, but do you in your head like think in advance like what foods you're gonna have? Yeah? The eggs.
If there's a man who rinses and repeats,
Oh really?
probably even more than me, it's Aaron. Yeah.
Oh, 6 eggs every day?
It's great though.
What did you...
If you turn those into an omelette
Yeah.
and have it with a bit of veg, and that is what, 350 calories.
Yeah.
Massive portion.
Absolutely be full all day.
What did you have the other day when I was like, what the hell is this?
Oh, I've seen that. You sent it to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and actually that's a good point. So sometimes it's also thinking about some of the swaps you can even make inside of the swaps. So if you've got a protein list and maybe you're on, let's say, me or Pablo put you on like a low, medium, high calorie days, like from weekday to weekend or training days or whatever. On your low days, if you try and make even smarter choices, you won't even necessarily notice it's a low day. So for example, if you have like cod or, like eggs or tuna or potatoes or green veg versus like even chicken or salmon or red meat, there will be quite a big difference in volume and calories straight away. So it's like you can bring the calories back by another 200 or 300 and not even notice the difference. So I'm not saying like do that all the time, but especially if you're on days where either you're hungry or days where you're trying to bring it back a little bit more so, or maybe you're going out and you want to free up a bit of room, just make a little bit smarter choices and it makes life substantially easier.
Yeah, my new go-to for a low-calorie meal that I love is 1 egg white, cottage cheese, mix all that up to making an omelette.
Yeah.
And then chestnut mushrooms, got loads of vitamin D, they're good for you.
Yeah. I love mushrooms. I can only cook them when she's not in the house though. Yeah.
You never cook them in the house.
Yeah.
Once he did it.
Yeah, it's great. There's a lot of volume, isn't there?
ballistic.
And it's like the same, if you have like, for example, like a jacket potato and tuna, I would like these types of meals, I'll call them staple meals. They're just meals that you would always refer back to help you out when you're trying to achieve something. Whether you're hungry or you're low in energy or you're also on low calories, then just do something to make your life easier sometimes. Like my thing will always be potatoes with tuna and just some like lighter than light mayo with some sweet corn, just mix it all up. But you can make the biggest plate of food for like 500 calories. It's great.
Yeah, that is
I've got a
massive,
big
yeah.
appetite and that makes me feel real full. So it will definitely help you guys out. So just think like that sometimes. It's not all the time, but it's just staple meals that do work well for you. The next thing then is just like how to look at your food, because you don't want to really demonize any food. And the thing is with social media, there's a lot of stuff on there like don't eat this, eat that. It's just, it can get really overwhelming. Obviously, as a whole, if we improve the quality of our diet, then that's only going to be a good thing. In terms of quality, ask yourself them 5 things, okay? Swim, walk, fly, come from the ground, grown on a tree. If it's in that area, it's going to be more natural based, good quality. But moving on to the next part, having a bit of what you like is also fine, right? Like it's going to happen. Like the world we live in and the convenience of food, you may as well learn how to work around it, not just like totally avoid it. It's pointless. And like who the hell wants to not eat chocolate and ice cream and stuff? So we need to learn how to moderate it. And me and Pat were talking about this the other day. I think all of us are good, like humans in general, with structure. We're not good with moderation. When you have a structured plan and you're trying to achieve something and there's a goal you're working towards, naturally you'll stick to it. As soon as you go into something more moderate as a whole, people struggle. And that's why weight maintenance can be a challenge, because it's not really a goal. There sort of is.
And stress and lack of sleep.
Yeah,
That all
exactly.
adds up.
And moderation is difficult. It can be very difficult. So, you always want to improve the quality of your diet because it will help. Sometimes always referring back to some of them structures that we said above, like meal swaps, calorie tracking, food prepping, even if you're like on a maintenance journey at the moment, you don't have to do it all the time, but if you even did it 3 or 4 days a week and then had more flexibility over the weekends, it's obviously going to help, okay? And it gives you some structure with moderation. And then like an 80-20 rule, you've probably heard this before. So like 80%, ideally stick to more nutrient stuff, 20% of what you like. I'd even say if you could go more like 90-10, that would probably be better. Keeping it really simple, like if you had 2,000 calories a day, try and have at least 16 to 1,800 of them, just put it into food that's going to help you, right? Make you feel good. And then a remainder like 200 to 400. If you want to have stuff, if you're not bothered, don't. And that's just building up a bit more awareness. Like some days you might not want chocolate, so don't eat it just because you can, right? So just think about it. That's what I would say. Anything you want to add to that?
No.
All good? Yeah. Okay, so we spoke
like
about
chocolate?
the calorie tracking, the sort of the food organization, food prep, food quality, all the simple stuff. The last couple bits then really is just protein and fiber. So everybody here really up like 2 grams of protein per kilogram body weight is not totally essential, but it will help. But really you all want to be on like 1.5. You don't want to be any lower than that. So, if you grab your body weight, times it by 1.5 in kilos, and that'll give you a rough idea. So for example, I'm like 85 kilos at the moment. If I'm aiming for 2 grams, I'm going to be roughly around about 170 grams of protein a day. Okay.
Maybe touch upon the importance. Why is it actually?
There's loads of benefits from it. Obviously, appetite management, muscle retention, reduction of fatigue. And it's also shown now that like people that are very protein deficient will experience like quite high levels of fatigue, like loss of bone density, things like this. So we do want to focus on trying to definitely bring it up. There's huge benefits for it. And same with fat as well. Okay. But don't overthink it. Some days if it's a bit lower, it's not the end of the world. If it's always going miles over, like I generally quite like protein, so I have to purposely actually eat more carbs in my diet especially based on my goals. Like at the moment, I'm doing quite a lot of endurance stuff. I want to train harder in the gym. It doesn't make sense for me to have additional calories towards protein. I may as well put more into carb because it'll give you more energy to train. So this is what we were talking about when your calories are banging up, because yours were the same. Your protein was quite high as well, right? So if you're going way over 2 grams, if you're looking at it and it's way over, it's not really a problem, but it's just not really necessary.
There's no need.
And I'm guessing meat's probably the most expensive part on the dish, so you can save some money as well. Just don't eat as much of it. But if you're struggling to get it in, then it gives you an idea. It gives you a rough sort of window that you want to sit in. And some days if it's way lower or higher, don't overthink it, but it's a bit of an average. Then lastly, then's fiber. So we've got 2 types. We've got soluble and insoluble. Soluble basically slows down your digestion, and insoluble speeds it up. So this is where sometimes people go wrong. If they've been, you can't go to the toilet or you're a bit constipated, they'll go, okay, I'll eat more fiber. They have more soluble fiber, it slows it down even more, and then they're even more bunged up. So you want to increase insoluble fiber in your diet if that is the case, okay? You want bits of both because they're both helpful. Like soluble fiber will balance your blood sugar levels. It will keep you full for a lot longer. And all these things are great if you're trying to maintain or lose weight. Then bits of insoluble, they generally can be quite higher calorie, like things like dates and stuff. They're great, but you can easily eat 5 or 6 dates, no problem. And it can be, depends how big the dates are, of course, but 100-200 calories, right? So it's just like still have it in your diet, just be aware of it. And I'm guessing if you're struggling to go to the toilet, that's something you do want to improve. So that could be something to look into. And most people run about 20 to 30 grams a day, but same again, I wouldn't overthink these numbers too much. If you're having 2 main meals that have some veg on there, and then you're looking at like an insoluble fiber list as well, which I'll tell you in a little bit about where you can find that too inside the coaching app now, and just include some of them in your diet sometimes, okay?
But for those who track, maybe because MyFitnessPal will show you, have a look where you roughly are some days, because it's good to know that you're hitting at least the 20 grams, because was it very low? Was it quite, yeah. And obviously we're trying to bump it up. So just for your own interest and obviously your gut health and digestion, just have a look where you roughly are with your fiber, because you will see it at the breakdown on MyFitnessPal. Yeah,
so go in there and have a little look. But same again with some of these things like the macros and all the micronutrients, like don't get overwhelmed with them. And think like if it's saying you're over, it doesn't really matter. Like they're shown now in the research that there's a huge spectrum of what's classed as ideal. And some people naturally feel like really good off of high carb, and some people feel better off of higher fat. You'll know based on how you feel. But sometimes if you're having like a few days of really high carb and you feel really sluggish, then maybe for you just feel a bit better off of different types of sort of energy, of fuel sources. I know for me, when I go really high carb, like have all my oats in the morning, things like that, I actually feel great, where some people may do the opposite. So just have the awareness of like how you're eating and how you feel, and we can slightly move it around. Okay, there really is no right or wrong with it, to be honest. But the 2 that are more important is the protein and the fiber. There are sort of essentials that we want to hit with that. Cool. So the last bit about eating out then, but anything else you want to go over? Any questions so far? Anything? No? Cool.
Yes.
What's that?
You saw it already.
I mean, Pavla,
that's the best thing to go by.
Pavla added that one in. I mean,
I love my 1 plate rule.
How big's your plate, right? Turn up my massive dining tray.
Plate.
Yeah. So yeah, just some eating out things to think about. So think about the meal swaps. Think about like protein, carb, veggie, salad. Try to make trade-offs when needed. That's the last one at the bottom. But like, if you're having, I don't know, let's say you have like steak, chips, and veg, and a few other things. You could just like ask them to put potatoes there rather than chips. That's just like a trade-off. You're just moving something around, and then maybe have a dessert or a glass of wine with it instead, something like that. And just like you're still having potatoes, but they're just boiled or oven cooked, not fried. So little things like that. Like you don't have to know the calories of these things when you're eating out. It's just more the intention behind it. Yeah. Okay.
And the hand portion, I feel that sometimes
hand portions can be good. Yeah, like look at your hand and just think, okay, look roughly how does that look? And also like when the food's in,
you a small portion for you.
The palm in the middle. Yes.
That's a veg. That's a veg.
Yes, a veg.
Vegetables.
But same again, I'm guessing when the food's in front of you when you're out, or like the reason why the 1 plate rule is quite good is because you can just like put everything on. If you're in a buffet scenario or a barbecue, it's easy just to keep picking and you don't even really know what the hell you've eaten. And also we can eat substantially more when we're just unaware. It's a bit like the whole, cinema scenario, popcorn eating, and you're looking at it, oh shit, it's gone. You don't even notice it, right? So if you're a bit more aware when eating, you will feel full faster. That's shown. I think on average, they said we can eat up to about 70% more if we're like semi-unaware of what we're eating, which is quite a lot more. So just be more aware of it. If it's in front of you, you can visually see what's there. And then you can also clock that and go, is this similar to roughly what I eat at home? Or is it just like, bulging over the sides? It's pretty obvious, right? So even if it is more, it's fine, but at least you're aware of roughly how much more. And then I'm guessing pick the protein first, pick some veg or salad, then the carb, and then whatever else you want to throw on top. So there's extra things there that at the buffet you want to throw on top. Throw it on top. Do it that way around. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. So
That's going to.
healthy fats. Yeah. So
Healthy fats.
yeah, I mean,
You eat nuts.
yeah. So I mean,
I know.
you can get them from a few like sources. You can get them from like obviously like nuts, avocado, like extra virgin olive oil. You can get
Salmon, mackerel.
mackerel. Dark
Any
chocolate.
seeds as well, but
Seeds.
obviously you want to be careful
Yeah.
with them. But they
But
do like
as
pumpkin
a,
seeds.
Yeah, as a whole, you do want to include them in your diet for sure. You don't want to go like, this is a good question. This is a problem. It's like, I guess with nutrition, we could cover so much, right? But it's like another thing you'll see is like low carb or really low fat, right? I mean, as a whole, if you're obviously dieting, like going lower in these things do help, but you don't want to go ultra low with it. And same again, if you go ultra low with fat for a long period of time.
Especially not a woman.
Yes, but well, yeah, same with guys though. It will start to upregulate your appetite, and you will then notice that you just crave more carby stuff. So that your fats are stupidly low, but then you just end up filling up with sugar anyway, which increases the calories. Do you see what I mean? The only thing is with fats is they obviously are just substantially more calorific than protein or carbs. So when eating them, you just want to be a bit more aware. Like, if you putting a bit of extra virgin olive oil on top of your salad, just weigh it out. Like put it in a teaspoon or something, because it really, if you just bang it on there, it can easily double the calories of the dish, no problem. But yeah, you do want to definitely include fats for sure. Any questions? They're good. Cool.
So let's have a look at some of the lifestyle habits.
Yeah.
So who here has a perfect sleep? Anyone? Whoa. No.
Nice question.
And who?
What do you consider?
As that you literally wake up feeling rested, don't have a problem falling asleep.
So I don't have a problem going to sleep, and I wake up normally feeling rested.
Okay.
Do I get enough hours sleep? No.
For yourself though, because I guess everyone has a different.
Yeah, no, there's a very small percentage of people that are like, it's shown that like 4 hours is like fine, but that's like as low as it goes. But that's ridiculous.
You go what, 5?
I can't even remember the percentage, but it's very.
So the last couple of weeks, I've not been sleeping enough. But if I have 6 hours sleep, I'm fine.
Yeah,
fine
so
with
that's
it.
probably fine then.
If I go to sleep, have 6 hours sleep.
Yeah, that's
you're
fine.
good.
So
Yeah.
I would say I do sleep.
Yeah, that's fine.
Within 5 minutes of hitting pillow, and I generally don't wake up at all during the night and wake up in the
That's good.
morning. So sorry.
And who's not doing any scrolling on the phone before bed? Is everyone on the phone?
Yeah.
You asked. Who else is on the phone?
Yeah, try burning that off.
That's the first
Me
thing
too.
you want to get rid
But
of.
yeah, like the window doesn't, like the time doesn't really matter too much. I mean, like most people can be sort of like 6 to 9 hours. Anywhere in that window, okay? But yeah, anything else you want to add to that?
No.
No?
Yeah, just look, like sleep is obviously important. Like you want to create a good routine where you go bed similar time and wake up similar time. Like try not to like snooze. That's the worst thing you can do. Like if anything, put your phone away so you can't actually reach for it. If anything, move it a little bit later, then try to wake up, sensible time. But don't like sneeze your alarm because that's
Yeah.
just gonna ruin your
And
ruin
like
the quality of your
the
sleep.
last one it says here is rhythm. It's just like is actually getting into that rhythm of sleep. It's the most important thing. You will feel more rested. So you've got like melatonin that makes you relax and adrenaline that wakes you up. And these will just simultaneously get used to going off at the right times if your bedtime and wake up time is very, very similar each day. So if you break your sleeping pattern, the best thing to do is just try to muscle through the next day and not nap and just go back to bed at the right time the next day and just continue that way. Because you will feel more rested. And what you probably do is just hit the pillow every night and you're gone. And like you're in that rhythm. That's what I'm like. I'll do the same, and I only sleep about 6 hours as well. I'll go to bed about 11, wake up at 5, and just do the same every single day. And I feel good off of that. Some you may need more. So like you may need 7 or 8, and that's fine. But even if you're getting the time, but the durations are all over the place, you probably still won't feel overly rested. So nail the rhythm first. That would definitely help. Cool.
Alcohol.
Booze. All right, let's talk about it. So the obvious, calories. There is obviously quite a lot of calories in some alcohol, right? But it's not really that. Like having a drink and stuff is fine, but it's just being wary of that. Spirits are going to be your very best option. Anything else is relative. And wine's not too bad, I guess. It's like 3/4 of a.
Don't say that.
It's not horrendous. No, it's
I knew you were gonna look at me.
I mean, it's not.
Took me a year to convert her.
It's not horrendous. I mean, it's roughly like 3/4 of a calorie per ml. So basically, if you
It is
have
more.
750 ml bottle is about 600 calories. It's still quite a lot, but you can do an entire bottle for 600.
And you
600
can,
calories.
so you look.
But I mean, the biggest thing of it is more so like how it makes you feel. So it's shown that like with anything, it doesn't matter whether it's like in terms of your sleep, booze is going to be affected the most from. Cheers, Josh. So your sleep's going to be affected the most from booze. You're going to feel extremely unrested. Even if you sleep for a long period of time, it'll be extremely shallow. So if you drink quite regularly, even if it's like one or two quite often, you're just like constantly topping that up and you're going to be constantly unrested. So, you know, you don't want to binge drink and you don't really want to like drink too often. I mean, as a whole, look, the obvious with this is if you can reduce it, great. But like, we're going to be realistic with it, right? And what I would say is like, think about why and when you drink. So like for me, if I'm having a shit week, I will try my best not to have a drink because that's not a good reason to drink. But if I'm out socially and I'm having a good time with my mates and I want to have a couple of drinks, then I'll have a couple of drinks. So like think if you're not having a great week, then try to eat better and go to the gym. I know it's easier said than done, but that will make you feel better faster. Okay, so just sort of think about the mental health aspect of it. It's really not great for your digestion, and like I said, it does delay recovery. So like if you have a drink and you go to the gym the next day, like great, good job for being there, but don't stress if you're a fair bit weaker. It's probably going to happen because you're just very unrested the night before, okay? But yeah, you know, everybody has their own relationship with booze. It's just being wary of it and trying to improve it. I think as a whole, if we all don't drink at all, great, but just be realistic and try to improve it. Hydration, okay? You want to talk about some of these?
You talk about this.
Me? Okay. Well, you're probably sick of my voice by now. So the obvious is just like look at drinking more as being like more lubricated. It's good for your joints. It's just good for your guts, energy, appetite, better skin. You will focus better. So as a whole, you want to make sure you're drinking plenty. In terms of aims, you want to be sort of white to moderately yellow when weeing. Okay, it shouldn't be yellow and it shouldn't be like white all the time, as you're just peeing for the sake of peeing. Okay, and you're just basically just peeing through water. You're just drinking too much. So like sometimes that may happen. If you end up like necking probably 300 to 500 mils in one go, then that will probably happen. So just try and sip more like little and often versus just like having like big gulps of water throughout the day, if possible. Okay. Cool. Any questions? Right.
Oh, so what we have there. Oh yes, spit.
So with the typos, you've got
Sip.
a foreigner and someone who's dyslexic. So that's as good as it gets.
Whoops.
We both pre-read it about 8 times. But clearly still clearly fucked it up. There we go. Right, so the last one then.
The last one.
So scale weight fluctuations, these are just a few graphs. Some of these are actually from you guys. And it just sort of shows here what weight loss looks like. And honestly, we've got hundreds of these graphs now from all of you. They all look the same, right? Some of you, if you're doing a bit of a slower cut, or some of you are doing a bit more aggressive, they do move a bit more on the tilted side or less tilted, but it still always does what that graph is doing. It just pings up and down. That's like literally what it's always going to do. Weight maintenance more looks like that sort of one in the top right, like where it sort of comes down and then levels off. That's more like weight maintenance. The rest of them are really more weight loss. But yeah, there's a few reasons why it's going to happen. Your weight predominantly fluctuates because of water, and like that's going to be dictated by a lot of things. Okay, so like obviously if you need to go to the toilet, if you go for a wee, you'll probably lose half a kilo to a kilo immediately, right? So just think about that. If you drink or don't drink, sometimes if you go out and drink booze and weigh yourself the next day, you'll be like, oh great, I'm lighter. No, you're not, you're dehydrated. That's it, right? So if you drink wine and you're lighter, you're just dehydrated, okay? So just understand that. You've always got to give yourself at least a 1 to 2 kilo window. And if you're a bit on the heavier side, or if you have more muscle, you have to give yourself even a bit of a bigger window because you're just going to hold on to even more water, okay? So like guys will fluctuate more than women on average with more muscle and things like that, okay? But a lot of other things like sleep will affect it. It will make you a little bit more less rested, which will hold on to more water. This is any type of stress, physical stress, mental stress, training stress. If you do a big session in the gym and like smash your lower body, like your legs, the next day your weight will probably be up because your body's quite like internally inflamed and trying to recover from the session, and you will bind onto more water, okay? So just be aware of that. Like if it's going up a little bit sometimes and you're thinking, oh, I'm ticking all the boxes here, but like what's happened the last couple of days, and you can sort of refer back to that. Alcohol will make it do 2 things, up and down. As I said, normally down initially because of the fact you're dehydrated. And then also carbohydrates. So every gram of carbs you eat will be about 3 to 4 grams of water retention. So what that means is if you have about 100 grams of carbs in your diet throughout the day, which is not a lot, it's only 400 calories of carbs. That's all it is. All of you will probably have that. And some of you are going to have a lot more than that. that's going to be roughly about half a litre of water retention. So if you think about carbs, you put them in water, it starts to soak water up, right? Okay, that's literally what's happening. So if you have more carbs, you'll retain onto more water. You don't want to overthink it. It's not a bad thing. If anything, it can work in your favor to help you be more hydrated. So if I'm doing like an endurance event, I'll have a lot of carbs before it and a lot of water to hold on to it. So then when I'm doing the endurance event, I'm not going to get dehydrated. But when I do that, I may put on 6 or 7 kilos in one day, right? So just to give you an idea, it'll really bang up and then it'll come back down. But it's just water and that's all it is. So like, you know, if you go out and have a pizza or a bit more of a carbier meal and you're like, oh, I'm 2 kilos up. It's like, you have not put on 2 kilos, right? You really haven't, okay? It's basically 7,700 calories in a kilogram of fat. It's just stored energy. You would need to eat that plus your maintenance in one day to put on a kilo. So most of your maintenance is going to be, let's just say 2,000 here. Some of you a bit more, some of you a bit less. You basically need to eat about 10,000 calories in one day to put on a kilo, to give you an idea, okay? So if you've had a 3,000 or 2,000 calorie pizza, you've not put on 2 kilos, right? It's impossible. You have to eat closer to 17,000 calories. And if you did that, it's a fucking good effort, right?
But we all know it's frustrating, you know, where you feel like you're doing everything right and the scales are just moving. Like, I've been there a million times, I will be there again soon. So just look, even me and you when we were dieting.
Even I've been there with it myself, and I'm telling you guys about all this. I know sometimes it can be a bit of a, it can mess your head up a little bit when you're trying to achieve something. I know we are quite attached to this thing more than any other metric, but sometimes you need to look at other metrics as well. Like, how do you feel? Are you getting stronger? Is your visual appearance changing? Because unfortunately, sometimes this water retention, you can bind onto it for at least a couple weeks or more at a time. And the longer you've been in a deficit for, the more you're pushing, or sometimes a bit more stressed you are, the longer it will play out, okay? So there's like, I'll give you a little bit more on an extreme example of this, but when I did my photo shoot prep last year, and the last sort of 3 weeks of it, I was really pushing. My steps were up really high, my calories were very low, and I wasn't sleeping much. So obviously my body was quite stressed. Now my weight was not shifting at all. It was like bang on 80 for sort of 3 weeks on the trot every single day. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, how am I doing 25,000 steps a day and like eating dust and it's not moving, right? And then all of a sudden, one day it went bomb. It moved about 3.5 kilos, right? And I was weeing a lot, but I was just weeing out a lot of water retention, right? So it's a little bit on the extreme end of the spectrum, but just to give you an idea, it's like I was losing weight every week throughout that period. I was just binding onto more water. So the thing is, if you're sticking to the plan and you're doing the things you need to be doing, it's physically impossible for you not to lose weight, right? Because your body has to rely on something to stay alive. And it's either the food coming in or the body fat you're holding on to be exposed as energy. So just remember that. I know it's hard, but sometimes you have to tell yourself that when you're seeing these things and they don't make sense over at least 2 or 3 weeks. After 2 or 3 weeks, if it's not moved, then we need to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
Okay.
But just, yeah, like, trust yourself and the process. And, you know, if you're doing the things right, it might be that you will see the change in 2-3 weeks time, but just know it's going to happen.
Yeah,
We see it all the time.
And visual appearance is the best one. Because the reason why I kept going over that 3 weeks, because I could see, I was like looking in the mirror, I'm like, obviously getting leaner. Like, it was obvious. But I was like, what the hell is this thing doing? So sometimes just don't try to get caught up about one thing, like look at more than one thing, okay?
Yeah, how you feel, your clothes, how they fit, you know, that's the best indicator.
100%.
The clothes, for sure.
Yeah. Cool. Right. Any questions, guys? Thank you for listening to all of that. That's pretty much all the educational bits. We just got some bits we want to talk about the app, and then we are then going to get you back up on your feet and get you into a fitness test, and then we're done. Okay?
That one's not going to be a pleasant one.
Any questions? Anything? Cool. Right. So outside of all the other things that are obviously inside of the EP program, there's now the EP app, and I know I've mentioned this once or twice already, but some guys have not downloaded this.
Yeah, have you got the new one or the old? You got the new one.
Just make sure everybody has the EP app. You'll know, so just say EP on it when you click on it.
It's red.
And it's red.
You will see.
But have that and delete Trainer Ice and just use your information to sign in. And if you need a hand from any of us to sort it out,
all the data will be there. We can help
it will be there, but it'll be less buggy. And there's a few other little bits on there. So there's like, you'll see on that bottom picture, there's a dashboard and it will say shortcuts, and there's a few things there. So like there's a membership lab. None of you have access to it yet, but we'll send you out like login details and you can get in there. There's just some, like for some of you that have obviously been with us a while, you can go through the bits that make more sense to you, of course. Right? Some of you that have just joined, it's like it's sort of set out in a drip feed order. So if we're talking about stuff that you're like, I already know this, and you can just skip on and find other stuff from there, okay? But don't feel like you have to go through it. It's not like homework, but it's just there to help you. Then we've got, there's a third button there. It says habits. If you click on this, this is some of the things we've been speaking about today, but there'll also be like a protein and fiber guide, and it also split up the soluble and insoluble stuff. So you can just click on that and download it. There's things there about body stats, so how to measure yourself properly. There's a grocery list to help you get more organized with like actually putting a weekly food shop together. There's some meal ideas, and there's also a lot of recipes there. So if you click on the recipes and click onto it, it's done in like month order. So it goes from January down to December. So for example, if you click on like a December one, it'll be more like Christmas-based stuff that you may want to cook. And if you're using MyFitnessPal, there is scanners there where you can literally just scan it and it'll bang it all straight in the app. So you can have a look at them sometimes. I know I said at the start, keep it simple, which I would. But sometimes if you're like, oh, I've got time tonight, I want to make something, then go in there and make a recipe, right? And there's also loads of eating out toolkits. So basically any like fast food chain, well, not necessarily like just McDonald's, but there are other ones as well that are like ideal, where you can go on there and it's like a toolkit of how to pick food in that place. It's done in like a traffic light system.
Yeah,
so you can click on it and download it. So there's loads of that stuff there. You can always just access it. You don't need to like keep downloading all the files. It will always just be saved in the app, if that makes sense. But even like, you know, McDonald's, there's choice in there that you can still make that are helpful. So just have a little look sometimes. It might be helpful when you're making last minute choices. But that's pretty much it. We'll get you into that, and then probably just gonna like send out a message to you all if you click on it and give us some feedback about what you think and any other things that we can do to obviously make things better for you. Because these stuff are great, but it only matters if it actually helps you. So we just want to get some feedback if that's okay. Cool.
And then we are planning to do maybe like end
Oh,
of the year a bit of a, not drinks, this time it's like a nice sit down Christmas dinner or like pre-Christmas dinner with some like games maybe, or just we're looking to hire a place this time, not Slugging Letters anymore, been day enough. So yeah, just like a sit down meal and all that. So I've been looking into it and I'll let you know once I
hopefully
sort that out.
October, November time.
Yeah.
Can't go for like a meal or something thinking, but we'll let you guys know about it beforehand and sort of what it consists of and everything. So yeah, cool.